Dig Dug 2. How on earth do I review Dig Dug 2? You've probably played the original Dig Dug. It's one of the classic Namco arcade games. You play as, I don't know his name. I'm guessing his name's Doug. And you dig underground. You're supposed to blow up the Rykars and Pukas. Those are the red guys and the dragons. The red guys are the Pukas. The dragons are the Rykars. You're supposed to, or Figars. You're supposed to blow them up with your bike pump and clear all of the stages. That was the premise of the original Dig Dug. There was some strategy there with how you dig and dropping rocks, and which enemies to take out first on each stage. Dig Dug 2 doesn't actually do that much digging. You're on the surface of each level. It's very different than the original Dig Dug. Dig Dug 2 is a game that I've seen people have a tough time wrapping their brain around, and I was that way when I first played it. I think the first time I played this was actually on the DS in the Namco Museum DS collection, but I've played it many times since. This version you're seeing here is the NES version of the game, which I've also been very familiar with because it's been ported a few times recently. Dig Dug 2 is a game where you run around on the surface. You have to blow up the Rygars and the Pukas with your bike pump. Sounds familiar. But this time you also have a drill. The drill will separate pieces of the land that you're standing on, pieces of the island, and sink them into the sea. This adds a whole new way to play the game. It has a lot more strategy. The game's a lot more hectic this time. Used to, the enemies would be in their little pockets, but now the enemies are free to run around, and sometimes they can trap you, easily trap you. The strategy here is making the lines in the ground, which they take a minute to traverse, and trying to strategize that way, trying to find a position where you're safe, a position where maybe you can sink the land, and kill the enemies in one fell swoop. It's very tough, but also very fun. Some of the challenge also comes with the fact that you don't want to sink yourself. If you sink a body of land and it's bigger, and it's smaller than the rest of the land, that part will sink. And if you're standing on that land, you will also sink. So you want to make sure whenever you separate the land, you're always standing on the bigger section so that you don't fall into the ocean and die. Very fun game. Very creative game. Not one that I hear people talk about too often. Dig Dug 2 is a ton of fun. Highly, highly recommended. I really like Dig Dug 2. I think this is just a really overlooked game in the Namco catalog. Happy to see it get a little more love recently. I think the last time I played it was actually on the Namco Museum Archives 2, I think, on the Switch. Which it has a lot of cool Famicom games. And, man, Dig Dug 2. If you like Dig Dug 1, I really think you should give it a chance. Just know that at first it may seem a little tricky, but hang in there. Dig Dug 2 is a ton of fun. And make sure you blow up those Rygar and Pukas with a bike pump. Imagine getting blown up with a bike pump until you explode. That is the most metal fucking way to go. Just, ah!